This is Pokemon Yellow with only a Pidgey. Rules are in the description. It has been a while since I've done a solo first stage Pokemon in Yellow version, so I'm really excited to get back to this format. This early game bird is not a very good Pokemon. For base stats, it has 40 HP and defense, 45 attack, 56 speed, and 35 special. My overlay is now using the new modern colors from Bulbapedia, which I personally prefer to the old ones, now that I've had time to let the change sink in. With base stats this low, Pidgey is going to need a very high level to complete the game, especially to be able to clear Lorelei at the beginning of the Elite Four. For that reason, I'm going to be doing extensive training throughout this playthrough. In most of my videos, I try to be as detail-oriented as possible, calling out all the optional trainers I battle and why I'm fighting them. In this case, we won't have that luxury because I'm going to be fighting so many people. Luckily for me, this training will be slightly less painful because of the fact that Pidgey has a medium-slow growth rate, meaning it levels up very quickly in the early game and slows down the higher its level gets. The point at which the medium-fast growth rate needs more experience to level up is 68, so Pidgey can get to a quite high level before its growth rate starts being a detriment. Plus, I'm going to be able to collect a total of 12 rare candies throughout this playthrough, boosting Pidgey's level once I complete my training. For that reason, I don't think we'll be using these rare candies before, say, Giovanni or probably Lorelei. Now, some first stage Pokemon can get through the game at a decently low level, but Pidgey is not going to be able to do that because of its move pool. The only way I can describe this is incredibly limited and very unfortunate. It starts with Gust and Sand Attack. Through level up, it gets Quick Attack, Whirlwind, which does nothing in trainer battles in Generation 1, Wing Attack, which only has base 35 power in Generation 1, at least Agility can trigger the badge boost, but Mirror Move is essentially useless. Through TM and HM, it gets access to fantastic moves like Razor Wind, Whirlwind, Toxic, Takedown, Double Edge, just in case you want to deal recoil damage to yourself, Rage, so that you can get locked into this never-ending move. But don't worry, Mimic is probably going to be one of the saviors of this run. Beyond that, it gets Reflect, Bide, Swift, Sky Attack, Rest, Substitute, and Fly. Unfortunately today, it looks like for flying type damage, I will need to utilize Fly, which can never be unlearned because there is no move deleter in Generation 1, and then I'm probably going to have to use Double Edge for my normal type damage because if I don't want to take recoil, my next best option is Swift. Now let's talk about my early game strategy because preparing for Brock is critical. First, I went to Viridian Forest to do some training because I want to level Pidgey up to roughly level 10 or 11. Once that's complete, I can backtrack to Viridian City and fight the rival on Route 22. His team consists of a level 9 Spearow and a level 8 Eevee. There are two reasons for me to participate in this battle. Number one, I want more experience for Brock so I can level Pidgey up as much as is possible, and number two, this battle sets which evolution he picks for the late game. If I skip this battle, he's going to pick either Vaporeon or Flareon based on the outcome of the lab battle. If you lose the lab battle, he picks Vaporeon, and if you win the lab battle and skip this battle, then he picks Flareon. Of course, because I did training in Viridian Forest first, I will be winning this battle, which means I'm going to face Jolteon in the late game. In Yellow version, I'm always trying to face the team that I think is going to be easiest for the Pokemon that I'm solo running. That's because the game isn't necessarily coded to make you face the team that you are going to be weakest to. The game just determines his team based on the outcome of these two battles, and of course, as a player, I have control over that. Since my goal is to beat the game with the lowest possible time, and I have control over that, I'm going to face the easiest team. So you might be wondering, why face Jolteon? That makes absolutely no sense. Well, the Magneton that he would have if he chose Vaporeon or Flareon is far more difficult for Pidgey to manage than the Jolteon. The reason is that the Jolteon has a lower defense stat and Pidgey gets the move Agility. That means I can outspeed the fast electric type and I'm going to be able to knock it out more easily with moves like Double Edge. Believe me, the Magneton is such a problem in these playthroughs. It has caused so many issues for Pokemon in the past. Even Titans like a Gyarados couldn't one-shot it when using Earthquake. Getting back to Brock preparation, I am going to fight all of the trainers remaining in Viridian Forest to level Pidgey up as much as possible, and I am also going to knock out every wild Pokemon I encounter for additional experience. This leads me to Pewter City at level 15, where I face the junior trainer in Brock's gym. His Diglett and Sandshrew give enough experience to get close to level 16. I think that's enough training for now. Let's see how Pidgey does against Brock. My strategy in this fight is fairly simple. I need to rely on Sand Attack to blind Brock's Pokemon, preventing them from attacking, allowing me to chip away with Quick Attack and Gust, slowly knocking them out. I'll draw to your attention the fact that I only use 4 Sand Attacks against the Geodude. This is because I want to save PP for Brock's Onix. After all, I am going to need to outlast it. There's another reason to use less than 6 accuracy drops, and that's because the accuracy mechanic has significant diminishing returns. The first Sand Attack lowers a 100% accuracy move down to 66%, and then the second one lowers it from 66% to 50%. The lowest this can go is 25%, but you only get decreases of 10%, 7%, 5%, and then 3% with the final 4 uses of the move. I was curious about these accuracy diminishing returns in a previous stream, and 2 viewers reached out to me providing me with a ton of graphs. Thank you, Mark and Caitlin, for this information. It has been really helpful in informing how I should play. My Pidgey is able to make it through the Geodude just under half health. The experience levels me up to 16, giving me 2 more hit points, and then Brock sends in Onix. Okay, I have 11 uses of Sand Attack left. This is important because I want to use this move every time he selects Bide. If you didn't know, in Generation 1, Bide bypasses accuracy checks. This was changed starting in Generation 2, but I don't really think it's an improvement. Bide is a bad enough move that it should bypass accuracy checks. I have to start things off against the Onix using Sand Attack because I don't want it to hit with other moves like Bind or Tackle. Also, Screech is scary because it can drop my defense significantly, allowing Tackle and Bind to deal massive damage. In this case though, it looks like the power of Sand Attack is really coming through for me. Also, the Onix isn't using that much Bide, so I'm able to stall it out with Sand Attack, bring it to red health, it misses a Screech, and Pidgey takes the victory. That is a no reset Brock and a first split of 7 minutes and 59 seconds. Honestly, not very bad for the early game bird. Route 3 is next, and I'm going to take some time here just to talk about my training strategy for this playthrough. And the fact of the matter is I didn't really have a training strategy. I just thought I'll fight some of the trainers, the ones that I typically do, with a few extras thrown in because Pidgey needs some extra experience. In my first playthroughs, I go in and just try to feel the Pokemon out. I'm not trying to optimize things beforehand by planning out an in-depth strategy. I've found in the past when I do that, I end up disappointed because my strategical plans usually fall apart due to some unforeseen factor. That said, there is always some level of bias influencing my play in these runs. When I sat down to do Pidgey, I was honestly a little bit overconfident in my own abilities as a player, and I figured that its result would be somewhere under the 2-hour mark. I said during the live stream where I played this first playthrough that I would be incredibly surprised if its time was over 2 hours. If you want to check that stream out, the link is in the description. Inside Mount Moon, I fight so many optional trainers, bringing Pidgey up to level 22 by the time I'm picking up the Dome Fossil. Jesse and James block my way into Cerulean City, and this fight ends up being a little bit close because the Meowth brings Pidgey down to yellow health, and then the Coughing poisons me. I'm really lucky that this didn't happen against the Ekans because I might have lost if things played out that way. In this case though, I'm just able to use an antidote and then progress into Cerulean City. With my low special stat and the fact that I'm not outspeeding Misty's Starmie yet, I don't think fighting her makes any sense, so I'm going to fight the rival on Nugget Bridge. When using a physical attacking Pokemon, there are so many ways this fight can go wrong. The Spearow can use Growl, the Sandshrew can use Sand Attack, the Rattata then can hit with powerful moves like Hyper Fang, and finally if you've made it through all of this, Eevee is there to clean you up with moves like Tackle as well as its own Sand Attack. In this battle, the Spearow does not lower my attack stat, which is ideal circumstances going into the battle against Sandshrew. I don't have a high critical hit rate, it's roughly 11%, so I can't rely on that against this defensive Pokemon. Luckily for me, the overtraining I have done gives me a 3-hit on the ground type, and it does not successfully get in a Sand Attack. Rattata's next, only using its weakest move Tackle, and that leads to his Eevee. Quick Attack does just under half. Luckily it fails a Tail Whip, and so everything has gone right for me in this battle. Pidgey takes a victory just before the 15-minute mark. Also, anyone who's watching this video, Churro really wants to say hi right now. You might hear him in the background of this audio, so yeah, say hi to Churro in the comments. If you don't already know and you're a new viewer, Churro is my orange cat who is extremely loud and makes recording these voiceovers very difficult. I usually just do like 100 retakes every time he is sitting at my door screaming for me to let him in, but in the future I think it might be more fun to add in a photo of him every time we hear one of his meows. meows. Let me know what you think in the comments. After completing Route 24 and 25, which I generally just call Nugget Bridge, my Pidgey is level 26, almost level 27. I decided to face Rocket Man just outside of Cerulean City for some additional experience, and since my speed stat is still quite low, I didn't want to fight Misty. Instead, I will go south and complete the SSN first. On the ship, there are a lot of optional trainers that disappear once you leave this area with Cut in hand. If you didn't already know, trainer Pokemon give more experience than their corresponding wild Pokemon, and generally, Pokemon found in grass are at lower levels. I think my overconfidence got the best of me here. I didn't battle that many trainers, and then I went up against the rival. This is the easiest battle against him in any one of these playthroughs. There isn't really anything that can go wrong. By this point, I am overleveled enough to one-shot the Rattata. I still have to three-shot the Sandshrew, and it does get one sand attack in, which is unfortunate because that's less likely than in the previous fight. After all, now it has 3 moves instead of 2. By the way, I always thought that its back sprite looked like Pidgey was crying for some reason. This little row of white pixels gave me that impression. Anyways, I can see that Pidgey is crying now because it has sand in its eyes, but even when blinded, it is still able to hit against the rival's Eevee and knock it out. After getting cut, I decided that I wasn't going to fight any trainers, and with that, the SSN sails away. Don't worry, I did pick up the TM for rest, just in case I need it later on. After leaving the port, I realized that I had probably cut my training short since my speed stat is only 51, and I'm going to need 57 to move first against Misty's Starmie. Conveniently, just east on Route 11, there are a bunch of other trainers that I can continue to fight for levels. This grinding brings Pidgey all the way up to level 31, where it has 55 speed. This is still not enough to move first against Misty's Starmie, but then live on stream, I had a revelation. You know, I realize I'm saying all this, and everyone is going to be like, you have quick attack. Yes, I do. Good point. Whenever I make mistakes like this, I like to reflect on why they occurred so that I can prevent them in the future. In this case, it's because I have a standard approach to Misty in these playthroughs. I'm always checking my speed stat to ensure that my Solomon can move first so that I don't get completely destroyed by her Starmie. Within this mental model that I have, there is no secondary check for a move that has high priority like Quick Attack. I think the reason this is the case is because generally for Misty, you can get a better move like Body Slam, so you aren't going to be using the priority move for primary damage. But of course with Pidgey, that isn't the case, so with this completely awful set, let's face the water type specialist and see how things go. Staryu is first. I am relying on the fact that I am over leveled here, and Quick Attack does not do enough for the knockout. Misty uses her X Defend, so her lead was free. Okay, it's Starmie time. Don't worry, it's not going to move first because I'm using Quick Attack. It does 1/3. Then the Starmie retaliates with Water Gun, doing a tiny bit of damage. My next Quick Attack takes it to orange health. It strikes with Bubble Beam, which also doesn't do much, lowering my speed, which is irrelevant. And so with that, my Tiny Burb is able to finish off her Starfish. Alright, I have to say, this early game has been incredibly consistent, and I think I want that to continue, so I'm not going to go to Vermilion City to face Surge, who is one of the most inconsistent gym leaders in the game. Instead, I'm going to journey to Lavender Town through Rock Tunnel. When I arrive, my moveset is going to get 3 major improvements, but before then, I have to face a bunch of difficult trainers, who I lovingly refer to as the Rock Tunnel Gauntlet. The first of them is the Wrapping Lass, but today at level 28, Pidgey learned Wing Attack, and while its base power is only 35, when it is super effective, it outpowers Quick Attack as well as Gust, and it allows me to one-shot all of her grass types. The next trainer is the Pokemaniac just inside of Rock Tunnel. His lead is Cubone, which loves to mess you up with Growl on turn number 2. This just barely allows it to survive and get a second Growl in, lowering my attack stat to 27 before the Slowpoke comes out, and it has a good defense stat. Look at how little damage I am doing every turn with Quick Attack. Then Confusion confuses Pidgey. Also, the special move is doing decent damage. Things are getting really close here. I go for Quick Attack and luckily it crits. However, Slowpoke survives with red health and finishes Pidgey off. So I didn't save before this fight because I typically only do that if my Pokemon is weak to ground type moves, because then the Cubone is really great with Bone Club, but as a flying type I didn't think that that was necessary. The best choice available to me was blacking out and walking back from Cerulean City. It is a time loss, but much less than having to battle Misty, the Wrapping Lass, and that Bug Catcher guy again. In the next battle against him, the Cubone is less awful. It uses Tail Whip on turn number 2, so it doesn't lower my attack stat, and then I'm doing significant damage to the Slowpoke, allowing for a 3-shot. Next is the Status Condition Junior Trainer. I expected her to be very straightforward after the Wrapping Lass, but no, the Oddish survives my wing attack, allowing her to use Sleep Powder, wasting my time. Like, this thing is never gonna knock Pidgey out with Absorb, but Sleep can last forever in Generation 1. With her out of the way, it is time for the man, the myth, the legend, the self-destructing hiker. He has 2 Geodudes and 1 Graveler, all of them know self-destruct, Rock Throw, as well as Defense Curl. These Pokemon are terrifying for Pidgey to go up against, but I have a strategy which you have seen before on the channel. If I use Sand Attack to lower their accuracy, then maybe, just maybe, they will miss when they use self-destruct. Hilariously, this battle started with me at 68 hit points. Due to Sand Attack, the first Geodude is unable to land a single hit, then it self-destructs, and that is 1 down. The next one comes out, I use 1 Sand Attack, it goes for self-destruct, and misses. So that's 2 down. I still have not taken a single hit point of damage. The final Graveler comes out, I go for Sand Attack, it misses self-destruct, and with that, Pidgey defeats all of his rocks in a clean sweep. There's one more trainer in the tunnel who isn't an issue for Pidgey, and with that I make it to Lavender Town, where I can finally go south and pick up the TM for Swift, which is a better normal type move. It bypasses accuracy checks and has a base power of 60, giving it an effective power after the same type attack bonus of 90. Using it to face the mandatory Gambler before Celadon City, and yeah, Swift is not even one-shotting the Growlithe. That is really not the best omen for what is to come. But in the short term, things are going to be very easy for Pidgey. I journey through the Rocket Hideout collecting items, as well as fighting this one optional trainer so that I can obtain the TM for Double Edge. With base 100 power and 100% accuracy, this is going to be my highest damage dealing move for Pidgey throughout the game. If you remember back a long time ago, when I used Pidgeot on stream, I utilized the move Hyper Beam, but I think it's a really interesting factoid that only final stage Pokemon can learn this move, so it isn't available for Pidgey, and I honestly wish it was. At the top of the department store, I buy 3 protein, feeding them to Pidgey to increase its attack stat, and then I pick up the HM for Fly, which I teach in the place of Wing Attack. I want to linger on this decision as I face trainers in Erica's gym. If I had deleted Sand Attack with Fly, then I would have significantly more PP available to me for extensive grinds throughout the mid-game. Also, if I kept Wing Attack around for a little bit longer, then I could use it against weak fighting types and grass types when I want to get a 1-hit and not take 2 turns. The reason I decided to do things this way is because I'm going into this playthrough blind. I don't know where the major obstacles are going to be, and Sand Attack can sometimes help a Pokemon if it is in a pinch. For example, against the rival's Cloyster in Sylph, or maybe against Giovanni's Rhydon, which has Rock Slide. In Generation 1, which is basically a catchphrase on this channel, there is no move reminder, so if I delete Sand Attack, I will never be able to get it back. With first playthroughs, I never restart even if I'm getting incredibly bad results or my Pokemon gets stuck. This tends to lead to overly safe play when constructing my moveset, especially in the early generation games. Okay, so let's face Erica, and yeah, this fight is as easy as you would expect it to be. I have Fly, which is super effective. By this point, my Pidgey has learned Agility, which can trigger the badge boost, but I don't need it here because I am already faster than her slow grass types. Fly one-shots the Weepinbell, Pidgey levels up to 37, she sends in Gloom, I go for Fly again, and it falls. While I can use the HM move inside of battle, I can't yet use it in the overworld, so I need to backtrack through Saffron City to Vermilion City in order to face Surge. To prepare for this battle, I'm going to teach Pidgey Double Edge, and while having Quick Attack's priority is nice, I'm going to need Swift and Agility for later on in the playthrough, and I cannot unlearn Fly, so Quick Attack has to go. Okay, with my improved moveset, I think I will have the damage needed to overcome the incredible obstacle that is Lieutenant Surge. His only Pokemon is Raichu, and I don't have priority, but I do have 66 speed, which is 1 more than the electric type. I choose Double Edge, and it does enough damage, so that's that. The rival in Pokemon Tower is next, and this is a very straightforward and easy fight. That said, Pidgey is not getting one-hits, and it's also taking a decent amount of damage because of the recoil from Double Edge. While this isn't an issue immediately, it could be in the future. Okay, the Chandler and Pokemon Tower are for once very simple because Fly is physical and does a lot of damage to their ghosts when my Pidgey is overleveled. I defeat Jesse and James, grab the Pokeflute, stop by the department store to top up on vitamins, and then I head to Cycling Road. Once upon a time on my channel, I believe that this was one of the best locations to train if you were a physical attacker. That's just because all of these Pokemon tend to have decent attack stats, meaning you gain a lot of attack stat experience. In modern times, I have narrowed it down to like 3 or 4 trainers which are optimal to battle here, but typically I don't want to battle everyone. Pidgey is a special case though, because its base stats are so low. I'm going to need a very high level to defeat Lorelei, probably 80 or 85. To reach that level, I need to begin my mid-game training now. The biker with 5 Pokemon, yeah, he poisons me right away with his coughing, and then he has Wheezings, which require Double Edge to knock out in only 2 hits. I didn't want to get hit by a sludge, but now taking recoil damage is extremely painful, especially because he has 1 more of these. And by the time I take it to half health, my Pidgey only has 6 hit points, so the Wheezing defeats me, and this is my first reset. That's a total of 2 faults, counting the blackout from earlier in the run. The only reason I lost that battle was because I was poisoned early on. Without the status condition, Pidgey is able to make it through, but this time with only 6 hit points remaining, it was still very close. If battling trainers like this is starting to become difficult, I am really worried about the significant level increase that all of the bosses get in Yellow version. Koga's Venomoth is level 50, Sabrina's Alakazam is level 50, and Blaine's Arcanine is level 54. It was obvious to me upon concluding the Safari Zone that I need to do more training, so I'm going to journey to Saffron City and fight everyone in the fighting dojo. I continue farming experience in Sylph because all of the trainers here will disappear when the player defeats Giovanni. The level that I'm typically looking for here is 40, which makes most final Pokemon capable of defeating the rival, but of course Pidgey is going to need a higher level. By the time I reached 48, I was curious how the battle would go, so let's see. Up first is his Sandslash, which is tanky defensively, and I think if I have any chance of knocking it out in 2 turns, I need to use Double Edge. Luckily for me, this does get the 2-hit, but that leaves me with 1/3 health remaining when the Ninetales comes in. I go for Fly against it, conserving my health. This does more than half, it misses a Tail Whip, and then I finish it off. Next is Cloyster, the Pokemon I am most worried for. I go for Fly, which does 1/3, and Pidgey can't hold up against Aurora Beam. Alright, it has never been more obvious to me. I cannot defeat him now, so let's dig out of Sylph and head to Koga's gym. There are 2 mandatory jugglers here and 2 optional tamers, and both of them have excellent experience yields, so I decide to face them. Plus, one of the major risks in these battles is one of the Sandslashes uses Sand Attack, but I have Swift to bypass those checks. Okay, so my Pidgey's level 49. Let's see if it can defeat Koga, whose ace is a Rock Electric type. As I start this fight, I'm going to welcome all new viewers to this channel. Thank you so much for the comments you're probably leaving. The Venonats in this battle are knocked out with a single fly each. That's perfect, so I move on to his Venomoth. This is, of course, my favorite Pokemon. It goes for Psychic, dealing almost half to Pidgey, so my bird is slower than it. I hit with Fly, which does massive damage, taking it into red. With its remaining health being so low, I knew that Swift would do enough damage. Pidgey is able to survive 1 more Psychic, and because of that, I have earned myself the Soul Badge. And with it comes a boost to my speed stat. With access to Surf outside of battle, I can head south to Cinnabar Island, fighting the Great Fisher along the way. This guy's experience yields are off the chart. Whenever you need to level, fight him. In the mansion, I fight some trainers that I very rarely go up against. I'm also collecting 2 rare candies here, which is going to bring my total up to 10. Pidgey is now level 51, which is over a damage rounding threshold, and I wanted to clear out the rival as soon as possible. I go back to attempt this fight again, but no. The Cloyster is still way too challenging. It defeats me 3 times before I finally clue into the fact that I really shouldn't be doing this battle. I conclude my training in Sylph, fighting a few more trainers, and then in Blaine's gym, I answer some of the questions wrong, fight these people, and that brings Pidgey up to level 53 before I take on the Fire-type specialist. If you like to play red and blue, Blaine is bad in those games, but in yellow, he is really good. Fly does half to the Ninetales, it lowers my defense with Tail Whip, and then hits with Quick Attack doing decent damage. Pidgey barely fails to get the knockout, and that is after an additional badge boost, so I probably wasn't in the range to knock this thing out. As a result, I'm confused against the Rapidash, but luckily I crit with Double Edge, finishing it in one turn. Arcanine is last. This thing is really good, provided it doesn't just spam Reflect, which is a possibility. But that's not the way the cards fall today, because Pidgey hits itself and Arcanine chooses Flamethrower. That fight was an example of when things go pretty well. In the next battle, I get confused trying to set up agility against the Ninetales, and it does use Flamethrower, taking Pidgey down to 5 hit points. While I managed to crit and knock Blaine's lead out, I'm not as lucky against his Rapidash, so that's my second loss here. So let's go through my options. I cannot fight Sabrina because she is walled off until I defeat Giovanni, and I can't fight him in Sylph because the rival blocks my way. His Cloyster is too powerful for Pidgey to defeat, and we have just seen why Blaine is not an option. That means there's only one thing left to do: train in inefficient areas. The first one is Route 15. I generally don't like to come here if I can avoid it, but today I can't. After that, south of Fuchsia City is decent because there is a high density of swimmers. This training brings Pidgey over 3 more damage rounding thresholds, so maybe this is enough to start two-shotting the rival's Cloyster. I start facing it with more than half health, I use Fly, and yes, it is going to be a 2-hit. That's really encouraging, but Cloyster's Aurora Beam lowers Pidgey's attack. I was feeling kind of hopeless here and just went with Swift anyways. I think I should have chosen Fly because it probably would have had enough damage. Oh well, it's just one reset. I come back into the battle, choose Fly twice, and knock the Cloyster out. But I only have 30 hit points left for the Kadabra and the Jolteon. Of course, the Psychic type is frail defensively, but I was a little bit worried the Jolteon was going to hang on. I choose Swift, and of course, Pidgey crits. So with that, the rival is cleared, and now I can proceed and defeat Giovanni. At level 59, this battle is not a problem, even if he has a rock type like Rhyhorn. Luckily right now, it does not know any rock type moves, but that will have changed for the next battle. With Sylph finished, I can defeat trainers in Sabrina's gym for more experience, and then go up against the Psychic type specialist. But this battle is going to be really straightforward. I have the Agility Swift Flash strategy. If you didn't already know, if I use Agility, it triggers a badge boost glitch. In this case, you can see my stats being recalculated because of this in the bottom left. Funnily enough, whenever the Abra uses Flash, it also triggers this glitch, so I can stack Agility and Flash together to raise my attack to absurd levels, and then use Swift to bypass all accuracy checks, one-shotting all of Sabrina's Pokemon. Now that she's done, I have to go back to Blaine. Level 60 Pidgey. I'm hoping, with some badge boosts, that this is going to be enough to one-shot his Pokemon. I set up with 3 Agilities before the Ninetales uses Flamethrower. Note, I am not boosting my special stat whenever I use Agility because I need Blaine's badge in order for that to happen. Even with 3 badge boosts, Fly is not enough to one-shot the Ninetales. Okay, fine. Instead, let's see how much damage Swift does. I was surprised against the Ninetales because it does half. Rapidash has less health and defense, so I continue using this strategy, knocking it out in 2 turns, and now it's time for the Arcanine. But I have green health, so I can use Double Edge. It does more than half. Arcanine goes for Fire Blast. Pidgey does survive, but I can't use the recoil move again, and I also get burned. With my attack cut, there's no way to win this battle. Okay, bad news. Swift doesn't always two-shot even when the Ninetales badge boosts me with Tail Whip. Also, without the badge boost, the Rapidash survives 2 hits. To play around this, I have to use Swift and Fly in combination to get the 2 shots. And the bad news continues because sometimes that doesn't work. At the beginning of this run, I was very hyper-fixated on how bad Lorelei was going to be, and maybe Giovanni before her, but I had no idea that Blaine was going to cause so many problems. What level is Pidgey going to need to defeat him? Well, I can head to the power plant. There is one trainer outside of here. This is actually important because I'm starting to run out of people to fight. Inside, I can pick up a rare candy, and I can also battle Zapdos. I figured this was going to be good experience, but the legendary bird actually defeats Pidgey because it has Thunder Shock. That loss occurred exclusively because I was trying to use Swift instead of Double Edge and just barely didn't get the damage I needed. In the next battle against Zapdos, Pidgey crits with Double Edge and one-shots. I have yet to extract the experience from the trainers east of Cinnabar Island, so I'm gonna do that now. I also go back to the route just south of Pallet Town to fight people here. That said, Pidgey is only level 62 by the time I try to fight Blaine again, and no, these battles are still not working out for me. The routes on the east coast of Kanto still have a lot of trainers, so I defeat them for experience, but these Pokemon are not at high levels, so I only reach level 64 before I try Blaine again. And no, I am still having resets here. Please look at this footage. I was just staring at my bag, considering if I should use rare candies here. I do have 11, so I could get to level 75, which would make Blaine possible, but I think that that's going to cause more problems against Lorelei. I really scraped the barrel for some trainers to get to level 65, but while I was doing this, I thought up a new strategy. I can teach Pidgey Reflect in the place of Swift. Now, while this does not trigger the badge boost, it does mean that I take half damage from physical attacks, and that'll give me a few more turns in battle if Blaine chooses any of his normal type moves. I set up to +6 with agility against the Ninetales, and it uses Tail Whip twice. That's a total of 5 badge boosts. I'm not close to leveling up, so I'm not going to lose this throughout the rest of the battle, and Fly can now one-shot the Ninetales. Okay, perfect. Rapidash also falls, and I have near full health for the Arcanine. First turn, I choose Double Edge, just in case it goes for Reflect, but don't worry, Pidgey is done with this battle just as much as I am. It one-shots his ace. Inside the Viridian Gym, I fight all the trainers because I need this experience. Now, the next battle is one that I am very worried about. As things start, you might be a little bit confused because I have free setup against the Doug Trio unless it uses Sand Attack. All of its other moves have no effect because of Pidgey's flying type. The reason I am worried about this battle is the Rhydon. While I have taught my bird Mimic, which I can use to steal Earthquake for super effective damage, the Rock type has incredible defense, and my weak bird is likely going to 2-hit. If I can't survive one Rock Slide, then I'm gonna have to get cheesy with mimicking Persian's Double Team, and then I have to use Fly and Double Edge to knock the Rhydon out, giving it more chances to roll the Rock Slide dice. With my 3 badge boosts, Earthquake is able to take out the Nidoqueen as well as the Nidoking in a single hit each. There's a problem here though, because the experience from these Pokemon levels Pidgey up so it loses its badge boosts. Earthquake still does half to the Rhydon, which is encouraging, but its Rock Slide hits way too hard if I don't have my defense set up. Simple solution, I'm gonna leave the gym, go back to the mansion, fight some wild Pokemon to level up to 67 before trying Giovanni again. I have to pray for no sand attacks. Dugtrio actually misses one, which is really convenient. Then I'm able to mimic Earthquake and knock it out. I missed the KO damage range on the Persian by a tiny bit. Level 68 would have given me that. This allows it to use Slash, which does about a third to Pidgey. The Nidos are still 1-hits, and I don't level up going into the Rhydon. Earthquake takes it to red, and Rock Slide does not get the knockout. Pidgey survives with 15 hit points, defeating Giovanni. There's only one battle remaining before I have to face Lorelei, and the rival on Route 22 could be problematic since his Jolteon is getting pretty strong. But we won't get to see how Pidgey does against it until I defeat the Cloyster. To make sure that's as easy as possible, I'm going to mimic Sandslash's Slash to ensure that Pidgey has a strong same-type attack bonus move. Because crit rates are based on the Pokemon's base speed, in this case, I'm going to have roughly an 88% chance to crit every time I use this move. Even with a crit, I'm not able to one-shot the Sandslash, it's surviving on red health. The Execute, of course, falls to a single Fly, then he sends in Ninetales, which does go down to a critical hit from Slash. And now, moment of truth, I level up, so I'm level 68 to face the Cloyster. But Slash fails to get a critical hit? Yeah, that's really not what I needed to see. I should have tried to use this move again, but instead I'm like, that's not the damage range I need, so I use Double Edge. I am really used to Slash critting every single time I use it, especially with a relatively fast Pokemon. But you need base 64 speed in order to ensure that. Double Edge doesn't do enough, and then the Cloyster crits Pidgey, knocking it out. In the next battle, I'm not really sure what I was thinking. I try to set up on the execute, but get paralyzed in the process, so that is really not the path to victory. I reset quickly here. Instead, I can set up against the Ninetales, but I'm obviously just not remembering where I leveled up in the first battle, because as soon as I knock it out, I lose all of my badge boosts, so that is not a path to victory either. I go back to the mansion to fight wild Pokemon so that I can level up to 68 so that I don't lose my badge boosts. Okay, so now I can utilize agility against the Ninetales, and then against the Cloyster, utilizing Fly, I can knock it out in 2 turns. I don't have to chance the crit by doing that, it's a little bit more reliable. Kadabra's next, I obviously one-shot, move on to the Jolteon, go for Slash, fail to get a critical hit. It survives on the tiniest amount of health, uses Thunder Wave, paralyzing Pidgey, and I will have you know, my bird has 150 speed. The Jolteon has 151. This means it's able to move first with Thunder. By the way, I wasn't able to go for Double Edge there because I would have knocked myself out. In the next battle, I make it back to the Jolteon. This time I get the crit, and with that, the rival is defeated. Victory Road hosts some of the trainers that have the best experience yields in the entire region. So I should have taken my time and faced most of them, but instead I just go up 1 level, only to 69, and then I proceed to Indigo Plateau. To this point in the playthrough, I have saved a total of 12 rare candies, and I can use them now to boost Pidgey up to level 81. I'm hoping that this is enough to face Lorelei. Her first Pokemon is Dugong. Now, while it doesn't have Ice Beam, it does have Aurora Beam, which is equally dangerous because it can lower my attack stat. I'm not sure what I was thinking here because the correct play is definitely utilizing Fly, making it miss its first turn Aurora Beam, and then hoping it goes for Rest on turn 2, because that's an 80% chance event. Instead, I'm just spamming Agility, and it spams Aurora Beam, eventually lowering my attack stat, ruining my chances at this fight. I made the choice to go back to Victory Road and fight a bunch of trainers to gain more experience. By doing this, I'm able to bring Pidgey up to level 71 so that when I use my 12 rare candies, I go to level 83 over the next damage rounding threshold. I have fought almost everyone in the region now, so I'm gonna have to start grinding on wild Pokemon if I want additional levels. I hope it doesn't come to that. In the next battle, I'm able to utilize the Fly strategy to get Dugong to rest so that I can set up Agility twice. Pidgey gets lucky with a follow-up critical hit, leading to the Cloyster. It has the highest base defense in the game, so I'm going to utilize Double Edge for my maximum damage. It takes it to red health, meaning Lorelei uses a super potion, and it never gets a chance to use Ice Beam before Pidgey knocks it out. Slowbro's next. I take it down in 2 hits, moving on to the Jinx, which I can one-shot with Double Edge, and all that's left is Lapras. But I do have less than half health, so I don't want to spam Double Edge here. I go for Fly on turn 1, have to tank a Blizzard, but Pidgey isn't up to the task. I'll have you know that getting a critical hit is not always good because I crit the Dugong, so I don't have a chance to set up for the rest of the fight, but I still have a 2-hit range on the Cloyster, which is good, although I do have to tank an Ice Beam. Then the Slowbro uses Psychic, chipping away at me, and I only have red health for the Lapras. The only win condition here is if it misses with Blizzard, but it doesn't. There's another way I can get unlucky against the Dugong, and that is when it doesn't choose Rest and it instead uses Aurora Beam, which crits. I didn't want this win to come down to a Blizzard miss, but right now it looks like that's what's going to have to happen, because when I make it back to the Lapras with roughly half health, its Blizzard is still knocking Pidgey out. But don't worry, the game RNG was smiling upon me this day, because I'm able to defeat the Slowbro because it spams only setup moves, one-shot the Jinx, and move on to the Lapras with more than half health. This is essentially perfect because then when it goes for Blizzard, Pidgey survives with 8 hit points and finishes Lorelei's ace off. The Hiker in the next room is not going to be an issue. I can mimic Dig, which is hilarious because I'm a Pidgey. After that, I can spam Fly for all the fighting types and Dig for the rock types. I will draw your attention to the fact that Pidgey even one-shots the Machamp. Normally this thing survives. Agatha is next. I can mimic Substitute here, set this up to block all of her confusion tactics, and give me a little bit more of a chance against things like Hypnosis. Fly hits all of her ghosts for massive damage. I one-shot the Haunter, I'm able to one-shot the Arbok with a critical hit Fly, and that leads to her final Gengar. Fly takes it to red health, and then it uses Hypnosis, putting Pidgey to sleep. Agatha then wastes her time with a Super Potion, followed by a Confuse Ray, followed by a second Confuse Ray, and finally she uses Psychic, breaking my substitute. This makes Confuse Ray effective once again, but the ghost continues to use it even once the status has been inflicted. This gives me the opportunity to use Fly, Confusion doesn't mess it up, and I defeat her on my first attempt. Okay, so there's only one Elite Four member remaining, it is Lance, and I have a really fun strategy here. The Gyarados is his first Pokemon, and its moveset is Dragon Rage, Leer, Hydro Pump, and Hyper Beam. Remember when I said I couldn't learn this powerful normal type move? Well, that's not entirely true. I set up with Agility, maxing out my badge boosts. It also gives me time to get hit by the Gyarados' Leer twice, further boosting my attack stat. If you didn't know, in Generation 1, when you use Hyper Beam, you do not need to recharge if you knock the opponent's Pokemon out. So I want to make sure that that's happening, because I'm going to use Mimic, steal this normal type move, and then sweep Lance's team. The Gyarados gets one of its own beams in before it faints, which is annoying because I only have orange health left over. There is very little margin for error, especially if I fail to knock out the Aerodactyl in a single hit. Of course, both of the Dragonairs are easy to manage, so let's see how the Rock-type Flyer is. Well, in this case, Pidgey gets a critical hit, and yeah, I move on to the Dragonite, use Hyper Beam, and with that, the Elite Four is complete. The only battle remaining is against the champion. The matchup against Sandslash is quite interesting for Pidgey. The ground type can't hit me with its most powerful move, Earthquake, but Slash can critical hit as we have seen before. Also, Poison Sting causes a status right away, and because I didn't teach Rest, because I am trying to break my addiction with this move, I am not going to be able to heal for the rest of the fight. That means I'm on a clock and I'm going to need to sweep. For maximum damage against the Exeggutor, I have to use Fly, which is a 2-turn move, meaning I take poison damage, and my tiny bird just doesn't have enough HP to last. Okay, so it's the champion in yellow. I should obviously be teaching Rest in the place of Double Edge. Now against the Sandslash, I can mimic Earthquake and then knock it out using 2 flies. Well, I was hoping it was going to be 2, but it just barely hangs on. Alakazam is next. Fly has a higher effective power, so I go for this one-shotting, and it also takes care of the Exeggutor. But what about the Cloyster? Now, if I had gone for the Flareon team, this thing would be at a higher level, so that's another advantage that Pidgey has facing Jolteon. I use Fly for maximum damage. It does about a third. Cloyster hits with Ice Beam, taking me to red, and its follow-up Aurora Beam gets the KO. What makes most sense here is to set up Agility to improve my special so that I can tank more hits from Cloyster. However, then I noticed that I am going to level up going into the Cloyster, so this isn't possible. I have to get by it with my defense stat as is. In order to heal health more quickly than with Rest, I can mimic Recover from Alakazam. This does chance a Kinesis or a crit Psychic, maybe Confusion from Psybeam. There is so much that can go wrong against this thing. Luckily, it doesn't happen. I move on to the Exeggutor, heal up, defeat it, and now let's see how I do against Cloyster with almost full health. Turn 1, Fly does a third, it uses Ice Beam and it freezes my Pidgey. Okay, fine. Okay, let's try that again. This time I have full health, so I go for Double Edge. It does more than half. I survive Ice Beam, and that's that. Next is Ninetales. I can use Recover here to heal. It goes for Fire Spin, just frustrating. It follows it up with Quick Attack. I recover one more time, and then before the Jolteon, I take my time setting up with Agility to improve my damage. I do just want to note here that Pidgey went into this fight with 190 speed, so it was going to move first anyway. And with +6, I will continue to move first even if I fail to knock the Jolteon out and it paralyzes with Thunder Wave. Ninetales takes 2 turns to knock out, so let's see if Pidgey has what it takes. I use Double Edge on the evolution, and Pidgey crits, so yeah, I do enough damage, and with that I have completed Pokemon Yellow with this weak bird Pokemon. It completed the game in 2 hours, 2 minutes and 55 seconds with 32 resets, 1 blackout at level 85, in 6 hours and 55 minutes of game time. This is the first 2-hour playthrough I have done in Pokemon Yellow in a very long time. Up until this point, I have not been tracking my first playthrough times in a spreadsheet, so I had to go back and dig through my videos to see what the last +2 hours 2-hour time was. I have done a lot of first stage Pokemon that we might think would be very bad for various reasons. Geodude is slow with 2 4x weaknesses, but no, it had a better time. Doduo is another flying type and I made major mistakes with it, but no, it was faster. Ekans is a poison type in a game where psychic types are extremely powerful, but no, it was also faster. The last Pokemon that I played Yellow with that had a time over 2 hours, well, it was technically Magikarp, but let's not count it. Other than Magikarp, the last Pokemon I played Yellow version with that got a time over 2 hours was Coughing. It had a first playthrough time of 2 hours, 37 minutes, and 28 seconds. Although that run was done a long time ago because I released the video on June 3rd, 2022. I think today Pidgey has really proven that it is an early game Pokemon that the developers did not intend to be used in this way. Even if you evolved it into Pidgeot, it was definitely meant to be replaced later into the playthrough by a Pokemon like Dodrio or one of the legendary birds. By the way, it's time for a Scott's Theories segment. Maybe they made the legendary birds flying types so that you would always have a fly HM user on your team without having to give up the spot for some trash like Pidgeot. By the way, I am just referring to its capabilities in battle, specifically in Generation 1, because it's really not good. And when you keep it unevolved like I am doing arbitrarily for the challenge, it's even worse. So I had to optimize this thing, and I'm not gonna lie to all of you, I procrastinated on this second playthrough for 4 months. I had other major projects like Electrode versus Magneton, as well as the Reggies to work on, and I sunk my time into those instead. But at long last, I worked up the motivation and returned to Pokemon Yellow with Pidgey. In some of these playthroughs, I have an incredibly detailed plan for every major battle in the run, and that allows me to shave off a lot of time from the playthrough, generally at a lower level. In other cases, I can grind out levels, utilizing rare candies differently throughout the playthrough to gain an advantage, and sometimes I find a hilarious move like Mist, and that ends up being the key that a Pokemon needs to success. If you haven't seen my live streams, I am going to be talking about Mist in a video in the near future. I never thought that that was going to be the case, but yeah, it was actually useful. So what strategy did I approach optimizing Pidgey with? Well, I know it needs a very high level in order to beat Lorelei, even inconsistently. And yes, I don't think that making her consistent is the correct approach if you want the lowest possible real time. I am still going to need to be in the 80s to defeat her, so I have to do a lot of training. And that is the philosophy for this second playthrough. Whenever I see a trainer, I fight them if Pidgey has a chance of defeating them. By doing this, I can front load the experience gain and use rare candies earlier on. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the specifics of this run. Of course, I'm still going to battle the rival on Route 22 so that he picks Jolteon. I fight Brock at level 16. I don't think there's a reason to go in at a lower level. I might as well just beat all of the trainers and knock out wild Pokemon as I go. On Route 3, I take my time fighting most of the trainers. I only skip the one guy that I would have to jump over a ledge to fight. There's a little bit of extra walking time and I don't want to deal with that. Inside of Mount Moon, I only skip a single trainer. Yeah, I literally fight everyone, even the one rocket by the HP up that I very rarely battle. The person I'm going to skip, of course, is the hiker with rock-type Pokemon. Pidgey can't defeat his team fast enough. All the additional training makes the rival on Route 22 easier, although I have to say this fight got a little bit closer than I was expecting. This is where I'm going to make my first major routing change. Instead of going to the SSN to train more, I'm going to face Misty now, so I don't have to backtrack as much throughout the playthrough. I'm level 28, so Pidgey's damage with Quick Attack is significant. I crit the Staryu for a one-hit, and then against the Starmie I set up a single Sand Attack because of the diminishing returns. After that, I use Quick Attack, knocking it out. And here, I want to draw your attention to a new feature that I am going to have in these videos and all of my live streams going forward in Generation 1. On the right hand side of the screen, whenever I beat a major trainer, we are going to see all of the splits and their comparison with the previous run. In this case, I am comparing the first Pidgey playthrough I did with the second Pidgey playthrough, although in the future, I could compare Pidgey to a different Pokemon. I just have to load in the splits file that I collect while I play the game, and then my software will use that file to compare to my current run. Examining these splits shows us that I was only a little bit ahead of my former pace up until Rival 2. Although, once I faced Misty, I am now 5 minutes and 1 second ahead. That's just because I did Misty in a different order. We're going to get a better sense for how things are going much later into the game once the splits start aligning again. Because, unlike before, I am going to change up how I approach the next section of the game. Rather than going to the SSN immediately, I fight all the trainers trainers on Route 11. Then on the ship, I battle every trainer here to gain as much experience as is possible. This makes the third rival fight very easy, although this means my split is now 8 minutes and 21 seconds behind what it was before. There are some problems here with equivalency, of course, and that's going to continue because instead of backtracking to Surge, I'm just gonna fight him now. Why would I backtrack? If he one-shots Pidgey with Thunderbolt, which by the way he doesn't, Pidgey survives on 11 health, there still is the chance that he uses a move like Growl and gives me the chance to knock his electric type out. So yeah, I am able to defeat him with no resets. After this battle, I'll draw your attention to another feature which I have added to the overlay, which is this little battle summary area. It is going to show us various statistics from the previous battle. For example, Surge took a total of 8 seconds and 60 milliseconds. The amount of experience that I gained per second was 91. This is obtained just by taking the total experience gained and dividing it by the battle duration. Of course, I have some other fun facts here, like the number of frames that the battle took, the number of turns in the battle, and the battle number, which is just the number of battles I have had up until this point in the run, both wild and trainer. I've then broken things out by player and enemy, so this is the number of turns, hits, and crits. There is going to be a lot of other information I can include in these battle summaries, but for now I'm trying to keep things simple. Okay, so let's jump ahead with Pidgey to Rock Tunnel. This is one location where I am not going to be battling optional trainers. So many of them have rock types, and I don't want to go off my planned path when I'm in the dark. For the midgame, I'm going to make some generalizations about my approach. In most areas, I will be fighting every single trainer with a few exceptions, like the Rocket Hideout, where I don't want to go through a bunch of slow spinning tiles to get to trainers that don't have particularly good experience yields. I also make a change to Pidgey's midgame moveset. I'm going to be running Wing Attack, Swift, Fly, and Agility. The last two moves I need for the late game. Swift I need to keep for Sabrina, and Wing Attack is here to speed up training with its PP. I clear Cycling Road, then I go to Sylph, clearing all of the trainers but not the rival. Next is Koga, and he is easy to defeat because he has bug types. At level 56, I'm not able to one-hit the Venomoth, but it doesn't really matter. On my way south to Cinnabar Island, I fight trainers, and then instead of fighting Blaine, I defeat all the trainers in his gym, bringing Pidgey up to level 60, and I backtrack to the rival in Sylph. At this level, I know that I can two-shot the Cloyster as well as one-hit the Jolteon. Things are fairly close here because I have to utilize Double Edge, but a win is a win. This opens up Sabrina's gym, so I'm going to collect all the experience from the trainers there before I face the Psychic-type specialist and crush her. So Pidgey is now almost level 63, and I wanted it to be exactly level 63 so that I can use my 11 rare candies to bring it up to level 74 before facing Blaine. But I made the most painful misclick of all time. Right as I got next to Blaine, I accidentally tapped the A button and talked to him without saving. I attempted to win at level 62, but of course this doesn't work out, so I have to black out here. But hilariously, the fact that I fought him gave me enough experience to level up to 63. That means I can now use my rare candies, go up to level 74, and face him for real. At this level, I have 1-hits on both the Ninetales and the Rapidash, and then a 2-hit against the Arcanine. I clear out the trainers in Giovanni's gym and then face him. With a level 75 Pidgey, I can set up Agility fully, mimic Earthquake, and then sweep his team. I will survive Rhydon's hit unless it crits with Rock Slide. It doesn't, and because of that, I have made it past the 8th gym leader with no resets and only a single blackout. Because I used my rare candies earlier on, the rival on Route 22 is no longer a threat. Even with a non-critical slash, I will still knock the Jolteon out. Once arriving in Victory Road, I take my time fighting all the trainers to level up as much as is possible. Fighting people here brings Pidgey up to level 78, almost 79, and then I have to backtrack to Fuchsia City. Just south of here, I fight all the Fishers, bringing Pidgey up to level 80. This was my target for Lorelei. First of all, I need the Dugong to cooperate with me. When I use Fly, I wanted to use Rest so I can set up. Then I need to not be frozen by the Cloyster, and the Slowbro needs to deal no damage to me with Surf or Psychic. If I can pull all of that off, then I should be able to one-shot the Jinx and two-shot the Lapras. That said, I am mixing in a new strategy that I was not utilizing last time. Previously, I just hoped that the Lapras would not one-shot me, but in this case I'm going to steal Amnesia from the Slowbro, set my special defense up, and this will give me the ability to survive the Lapras's hits. That is, if Dugong, Cloyster, and Slowbro don't deal enough damage to me. I think in retrospect I probably should have taught Rest for this fight because I'm going to be utilizing Dig for Bruno as well as Fly for Agatha. Without Rest, things are a little bit bumpy here against Lorelei, but it still is possible. I have a total of 6 resets before I get what I need to knock the Lapras out. From there, things are simple. Both Bruno and Agatha aren't an issue, and I'm going to utilize the same Hyper Beam strategy against Lance. In this case, I really wanted to ensure that I would one-hit the Aerodactyl, and I figured that it was a low enough probability that Dragonair would freeze me that setting up here would make sense. Yeah, but it just freezes me right away, so that's really frustrating. In the next battle, without a lucky freeze, Lance is not able to stop me, even if I don't one-shot the Aerodactyl. So that's that. Pidgey is definitely getting a sub 2 hour time. However, the champion still has the potential to keep it under an hour and 45 minutes. My strategy is the same as before here, but I forgot one thing. I kept 1 rare candy before Lorelei. I only used a total of 11, so I have to reset here and then use my 12th rare candy to go up to level 82. This ensures that I will not level up mid-battle against the champion, so now I can set up agility against his Sand Slash, and from there the battle is going to be far easier. With my special defense boosted, Cloyster can't do that much to me. It would need to hit with 2 Ice Beams in a row, and really the loss condition here is either a critical hit or a freeze. From there, fully set up, I'm able to one-shot the Ninetales as well as the Jolteon, and Pidgey clocks in with its second playthrough time of 1 hour 43 minutes and 34 seconds, with 8 resets, 1 blackout at level 82, with a game time of 6 hours and 31 minutes. I'm happy I was able to improve its results to get them under 2 hours, but still Pidgey did not have a good time. The fact that it needs to do so much additional training just to make Lorelei manageable is always going to hold this thing back. It never really had a chance of competing with the Doduo's 1 hour 17 minutes and 31 second time, and Pidgeotto had a time of 1 hour 25 minutes and 10 seconds. So fittingly, Pidgey is going to have worse results. Okay, I'm just going to cut in here while I'm editing. I realized the A tier is getting extremely cramped, so I decided to adjust the thresholds for all of the tiers to make things a little bit better balanced. And this is the result of that process. Okay, so in this new context, let's get back to ranking Pidgey. Today, it earns itself the last spot in the Surge tier, just barely escaping the Bruno tier. Stick around for 1 more minute because I'm going to face the Glitch Professor Oak battle, but before that, I want to mention what's coming up next week. I figured that we should stay on the theme of early game birds, so we are going to see how Spearow does in Pokemon Yellow. If you support the channel directly, thank you so much, it means the world to me. For everyone who's made it this far, you're incredible. Now, let's see how Professor Oak went. His first Pokemon is Tauros, and its moveset isn't that good. I don't want to set up here though because Pidgey is about to level up, so I'm gonna knock it out and then mimic Stomp from the Executor. This knockout doesn't give me enough experience to level up, so I need to finish the Arcanine off as well. I can do this utilizing Stomp, and then Pidgey levels up to 83. Okay, so I'm gonna set up Agility here against the Charizard, using Rest to heal. After all, it does have Fire Spin and Rage. When it uses the first of these moves, it stalls out the sleep timer, and if it uses the second, then it can't switch to a different move for the rest of the battle. That gives me time to max out my badge boosts and finish off the Fiery Lizard. Last is Gyarados, and it can hit really hard with Hydro Pump, but Pidgey with badge boosts survives and finishes off Oak's ace.